This is the Power of Pro Wrestling, a podcast by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Robert Red. And for this very special Cruiserweight edition of the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast, I'm joined by my first-time guest, Tim. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing awesome. Glad to have you on the show. Since you're a first-time guest, I'm liking you being on here. How have you been? I mean, what have you been up to?
Been doing good. Just been working a lot. And working a lot. Working, pretty much. Working, going home, watching wrestling.
Yeah, seems to be some of our life sometimes.
That's my stress relief, yeah.
Yeah, so for this edition of the podcast, we're going to be heavily focused on the cruiserweights, and we're going to be opening up the show with a specific cruiserweight, Enzo Amore. Now, as you guys know, Enzo Amore just recently joined 205 Live in the cruiserweight division, and some believe that he is beneficial to the cruiserweight division, and some believe that he is a detriment to the cruiserweight division. So to start off the show with our great debate topic is we're going to be debating if Enzo Amore is a benefit or a detriment to the cruiserweight division in 205 Live. Now, the way this works is my guest, Tim, you will argue one side of the topic, and I'll do the other side. Now, you are going to be defending why Enzo Amore is a benefit, and you'll have 2 minutes to do that. I'm going to be quiet during that, and then I'll have 2 minutes to say why he is a detriment to the cruiserweight division. So I'm going to let you get it started. You'll have 2 minutes to tell us why Enzo Amore is good for the cruiserweight division in 205 Live.
Sounds great to me. Right. Well, when it comes to Enzo, it all comes down to he's a draw. Whether people want to see him, whether they want to see his butt get kicked, whether they want to see him, he speaks good on the microphone, and that's what he brings to a lot of the cruiserweights, his personality. He may not be the best in the ring, but on the microphone, he gets a pop no matter what he's doing. He gets a pop. He gets heat. People love to cheer him. They love to boo him. I like to see him just get kicked around. He brings a lot of energy. I mean, other than Neville, I couldn't think of anybody that's had a bigger impact on the cruiserweight division since it got started. I mean, otherwise it's been dragged down to storylines. The others are better in the ring-wise, but you also need it from a personality and a gift of talk-wise. And I just think he brings that element, plus someone that people just want to see just talk and sometimes get his comeuppance.
Okay, so those are some very good points that you mentioned about Enzo Amore being a benefit to the cruiserweight division. I disagree. I say he is a detriment to the cruiserweight division, and I will say why. The cruiserweight division, when it was first introduced, it was introduced very heavily on wrestling ability and talent. There wasn't a lot of storyline there, so therefore, or you need a lot of talent to be in the cruiserweight division, and you got to be very good, a very good in-ring worker. Enzo Amore is not that. As popular as he may be, he is not very good in the ring. He's not as solid and crisp and clean as the other cruiserweights like a Neville or a TJP or stuff like that, Brian Kendrick. So, that is one aspect why that Enzo Amore is a detriment to the cruiserweight division. And to go back to the kind of your point why he's a detriment to the cruiserweight division, let's say he is a draw, that means the rest of the cruiserweights are just crappy and stuff like that. So that, to me, you're saying that only one guy in the cruiserweight division is worth watching, and the rest of them are just garbage. So with that, it makes the rest of the cruiserweights feel like they are they're worthless and stuff like that. They're not stars or draws. Now, Enzo may be a star, but if he's a star, everybody else in that division has to be stars as well. He drags everybody down by saying what he said, especially with what happened on Raw this past Monday, saying, hey, I'm the draw and I made 205 relevant stuff. That is really burying your Cruiserweight division and are not necessarily a burial of a Cruiserweight division, but you are making them a very heavy detriment upon the rest of the division that you're supposed to be a part of. You're supposed to bring that division up by being a part of it, not drag it down and saying you guys are irrelevant and I'm the only star in this division. So to me, him being a part of 205 Live is very much a detriment to the division. But that's all the time we have left for this debate topic. Guys, let us know what you think. There'll be a Twitter poll on my Twitter, and you can find out my Twitter at the end. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Our top 5 moments are next.
This is Jake Neal, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast.
Welcome back to the show. Brace yourselves. It's now time for our top 5. With all the exciting action this week, we'll be counting down our favorite moments from 5 to 1, starting with number 5. Okay, Tim, what's your number 5 favorite moment of the week?
My number 5 favorite moment of the week would be Monday Night Raw, Miz TV with Roman Reigns and The Miz and The Miztourage. I think it was a pretty solid promo by The Miz. I like the fact how he stood up, how he still is really carrying that Intercontinental title to the Prestige. I like the way he stood up to the fact that he's the only champion that's around. But then I also don't like the fact that they're teasing. As much as I would like the fact to see a Shield reunion, I just don't think it's the right place and right time and right opponents. The Miz, if he got a couple of partners maybe, then The Miz obviously, but the way they've treated Axel and
Bo Dallas.
Bo Dallas. The way they treated Axel and Dallas, I mean, it just doesn't seem like a credible threat to me.
Okay, that's a good number 5 moment for the week. My number 5 moment of the week is actually going to come from SmackDown Live, and it is going to be, it's not the Usos and Hot Ropes match, but it was the promo afterwards, or the confrontation between the Usos and the New Day. The reason why I have this as number 5 is because it was just a confrontation. You really there wasn't a lot of meat or substance to the segment or the promo, but I still enjoyed it because it kind of got me hyped for Hell in a Cell. You had kind of the back and forth between the two, and you had Xavier Woods saying, we don't just want a match at Hell in a Cell, we want a match inside Hell in a Cell, which is a big deal. You really don't see tag team matches inside Hell in a Cell. So that got me kind of pumped for Hell in a Cell, and it's going to be interesting to see what these two do. They have awesome matches. I think the one they had at SummerSlam was the last time they met, or it may have been the Vegas Street Fight that was after SummerSlam. Great. These guys just have great chemistry, so I do want to see another match between them. And maybe at Hell in a Cell they will settle their feud. But, I mean, it was just a great, exciting feud, and that's why I put it as my number 5 moment of the week. Number 4. Okay, Tim, what's your number 4 moment of the week?
Well, my number 4 moment for the week comes from SmackDown Live. It involves a match between Kevin Owens and
Sami Zayn.
I would say I loved the match, and I thought, bringing up them back together again would be bringing up their feud again. Is they can always go back to it, but it also brought out the mean streak in Kevin Owens that we've seen in the past. It made him popular in NXT in the first place, made him popular in Ring of Honor. He's a much better heel than he is a babyface. And we finally see that mean streak again, as opposed to when he was teaming with Jericho, and he became pretty much a laughingstock as a champion. He lost his edge.
Okay, that was a great number 4 moment. My number 4 moment is actually going to come from Monday Night Raw, and it is going to be another confrontation. It is going to be Mickie James and Alexa Bliss confrontation. The reason I like it is it's something different for the women on Raw to do. It's not the standard Alexa, Sasha, Alexa, Bayley, Alexa, Nia. So it's something different, and it is kind of like almost the payoff of a feud. that was from SmackDown Live when you brought Mickie James over. You really didn't continue that with Alexa Bliss when you had the whole Law Luchador thing when Alexa supposedly brought Mickie back. So, I mean, and that was great. And I like kind of the promo between the two. And, like, I love what Mickie James, the whole line is, honey, I've been doing this since you were in a training bra. And the whole line of it looks like you're still in it. That was just, it was funny. And then just the confrontation they had with Mickie kind of, I think, slapping her, doing what she did to Alexa. Just, it got me excited for the potential there for a match. So that's why I have this as a number 4 moment of the week. Because it was a confrontation I felt that was a little bit better than the New Day Usos thing, which I'm still excited about. But just the whole Mickie and Alexa thing, and it got me excited as well because there was some substance to it and an actual altercation between the two. Is why I put this as my number 4 moment of the week.
Number 3.
Okay, Tim, what is your number 3 moment for the week?
My number 3 moment of the week, again, comes from SmackDown Live. And I would say that would be the match between Baron Corbin and Ty Dillinger. And with AJ Styles on commentary. And the reason I like that is because Corbin, even though his push lately has not been as good since he lost his cash-in and lost to Cena, however, he seems to be motivated, and anybody working with AJ Styles, they're going to automatically be elevated. And he's got that attitude about him. I can see that he's motivated, and I think there's nothing but positive that can come out of that from him and AJ Styles continuing their feud and making it more heated.
Okay, that's a great number 3 moment of the week. My number 3 moment actually is going to come from SmackDown Live. I'm going to flip back to SmackDown Live. And it's going to be the match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Now, these two just have a great dynamic. They have been friends for years. They've mentioned that on air. But, I mean, this was just a good match between the two. I have it as number 3 because it was a good match, but the ending kind of fell flat for me, just having him powerbomb Sami Zayn on the side of the apron and then the match is kind of stopping, kind of like they did in NXT. I really don't like that. In matches, I like there to be some sort of definitive finish. I don't want the match just to be called off due to injury or something. So that's what kind of soured me on it, although the match was very good. I even enjoyed the promo that they kicked the show off with, and just the back and forth between the two at the start of the show was great. And the match at the main event or at the end of SmackDown was very good. So I love that. But with there not being a definitive finish or winner and the match stopping is what kind of soured me and put it as number 3. Because it was a match, why it beat out the confrontations ends, but it wasn't as good as the other things that are going to be on my list. So that's why it stuck at number 3 for the week.
Number 2.
Okay, Tim, what is your number 2 moment for the week?
My number 2 moment for the week would have to be for Monday Night Raw. It would have to be the trying to rebuild of Braun Strowman when he was supposed to have the match with Kurt Hawkins, ended up power slamming him through the set, and then ended up having a match with Dean Ambrose. I like the positive. They're trying to rebuild Braun Strowman back up. However, I do hate the fact that it feels like an aura that he had has gone, so it's going to take a lot of building. I think they may be on the right path by just having him continue his destruction of people, especially someone like a Dean Ambrose, because, I mean, you've got a former WWE champion there, Intercontinental champion, a credible opponent there that he beat fair and square. And I think that's what they need to keep having him do to build him up to maybe even a rematch with Lesnar down the line.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see a rematch probably between the two, especially if Braun Strowman could win the title. My number 2 moment, I'll move on, is actually going to come from Ring of Honor, and it's going to be the Honor Rumble, which was their 20-man Royal Rumble to determine the number 1 contender who would face the champion, the American Nightmare Cody. If it's not on TV, Cody Rhodes. But I enjoyed this because it was an actual match, a very good competitive match. You had 20 talents that came in, and just it was a very good competitive match, and it was good. I loved it that it came down to Kazarian winning, because Kazarian's never really been in the main event scene, and he's never really challenged for a championship. If you didn't really see that in TNA, you've not really seen that in Ring of Honor. So for him to finally get that chance of the shot after Christopher Daniels, who had never really been in the main event scene either, and then him winning the title and then losing it to Cody. It was an interesting dynamic, and it was cool to see guys like number 20 was Glacier from WCW. I'd not seen Glacier in years, so I mean that was cool, and I mean it was just a very competitive match. I enjoyed it better than I did the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn, since it was an actual competitive match and it had a definitive winner. It wasn't number one because you did kind of have the interference from Christopher Daniels to kind of help Kazarian win and throw Jay Lethal out. So that's why it's number two. It didn't make my number one moment for the week. Right, so the Honor Rumble was my number two moment for the week.
Oh, man, you said Glacier. Now I'm thinking back to those times I saw on WCW Saturday Night, those promos before his vignettes. I was thinking Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and that's actually who he was supposed to be based on. He's supposed to be Sub-Zero. Yeah.
And I remember when he came out and then debuted, I was just like, as a kid, I thought it was cool, actually.
Number 1.
Okay, it's now time for our number one moment of the week. So what do you got, Tim, for your number one moment for the week?
Okay, my number one moment for the week comes from SmackDown Live. It comes from SmackDown Live, and it would be the aftermath of the match we've talked about between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. With when Kevin Owens had the steel chair wrapped around Sami Zayn's neck, and Shane McMahon came out. I think there were a few subtle things they did during that to where like when Kevin Owens threw Sami Zayn into the running Shane, and he ended up hitting the steel chair against his neck. Ended up he's the one that injured him in the first place. By running into him, it kind of throws a little drama in there, but then you can see that fire from Shane, and of course, of all the McMahons, if there's anybody I'd like to see wrestle, it'd be Shane McMahon, because, you know, you're always going to be entertained, and I think someone like Kevin Owens, they're going to bring out, that's going to be a heck of a fight right there, and especially after he tackled him over the announce table. I think that's to add the story of the McMahon rivalry. And it kind of comes full circle, you know, when Kevin Owens won the Universal title in the first place due to the help of Triple H. And sometimes I'm thinking, when's Triple H going to show up?
Okay, that was a great number one moment. My number one moment of the week is actually going to come from Lucha Underground, and it's going to be from Ultima Lucha Tres. It's the Hell of War match between Dante Fox and Killshot. Now, why this was number one, it was a very violent and brutal match. It was, like I said, it was a Hell of War, so it was basically 3 stages of a hell match. You started off with a first blood match, and just having Dante Fox through Killshot through the plate glass to get him to bleed. That was an interesting way to do it, because normally you have people bleed from the forehead is how you normally see a first blood match end, but he was bleeding from his back, so the referee called it, so that was good. And then the second fall was no DQ, and then you had Killshot kind of win it with like chairs and stuff and hitting a move, and then you had the last fall, which was pretty much a stretcher match or an ambulance match, however you want to call it. And just, I love the spot that was when Dante Fox got thrown off of like the little perch thing they've got there, or in the Temple Lucha Underground, and threw like a plate glass or whatever it was. I'm trying to remember. But I mean, that was great. And it was just the physicality, and the brutality of the match, and just the blood feud, the hatred for the two that's been built up over months. It made it an interesting match, and just the physicality and brutality is what, to me, got me interested in the match for this week. And that's why it was my number one moment for the week. So with that, it's now time for our final commercial break, but stay tuned. Rapid Fire is next.
This is Megan Toddy, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast.
Welcome back to the show. It's now time for the fastest segment of the show, Rapid Fire. For this edition of Rapid Fire, we'll be giving our predictions on to who will be Cruiserweight champion by 2018. So let's start with Neville. Do you think Neville will be Cruiserweight champion by 2018?
I believe so.
Okay, awesome. I'm in agreement with you. He seems to be the best choice here of being Cruiserweight champion, since he just lost the title, and really where they seem to be going with the whole feud with Enzo and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think he has the best chance of being Cruiserweight champion again, so I could definitely see a yes there. How about Drew Gulak?
No, I just don't see that one. I just don't see. There's just not enough movement behind him. I don't see him becoming Cruiserweight champion by 2018. No.
Okay, I definitely can agree with you. I don't see Gulak even really in the title hunt by 2018. I mean, they've not really pushed him to the forefront of the Cruiserweight division. I don't mind kind of what they've been doing with him in the Cruiserweight division, but I mean, he's not really been out front or a mainstay of the Cruiserweight division, so I don't see him winning the title unless some miracle of God happens by the end of the year, so I don't think he'll be Cruiserweight champion by 2018. Okay, let's move on to Cedric Alexander.
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so because, honestly, I think there's going to be I don't think the Cruiserweight Championship is going to change hands very much between now and 2018.
Okay. I could see Cedric Alexander as maybe a possibility. He's a maybe yes, maybe no. He's not as a strong candidate as I think for Neville, but I think with him coming back, he had a great showing in the Cruiserweight Classic there against Kota Ibushi. People were chanting, please sign Cedric. Again, I think he's a really good sound worker. So, I mean, I definitely could see a possibility of him being the Cruiserweight champion by the end of 2018. Okay, let's go on to my favorite, Noam Dar and Alicia Fox.
Oh, man. No, I don't see that one unless it's a one-time thing. They might pull a one-off thing, but I think the Alicia Fox angle has pretty much killed his credibility, at least in my opinion.
Okay. I agree with you. I don't see Noam Dar really being the Cruiserweight champion this year by the end of 2018. He's really not had the top feud. He's really been feuding over Alicia Fox for the best part of like the last several months. So I don't see him being in the Cruiserweight chase for the title anytime soon. So I doubt he would be Cruiserweight champion by the end of 2018. Okay, let's move on to Mr. TJP, as he's now known, TJ Perkins.
And again, I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no to TJ Perkins is, I mean, he was awesome in the Classic, but since he moved to the main roster, I believe it's faltered. The way they presented him is not the way that he was presented in the Cruiserweight Classic, and he's lost what momentum he had behind him in the Cruiserweight Classic. Now he seems to me like just one of the other cruiserweights.
Okay. I can definitely agree. I don't think TJP will be Cruiserweight champion by the end of 2018. I mean, he won the title, and then he had like another shot at it and stuff, and he's really not been in the hunt since losing the title. So I don't really see him as a possibility for the Cruiserweight champion by the end of the year. So I'm going to say no on that as well. And let's end with Gran Metalik. Do you see him as a Cruiserweight champion by the end of 2018?
Oh, by the end of 2018?
By the end of 2017. By the end of the year.
Well, no, actually I don't. And that's because I think he needs to work on his verbal skills. His in-ring skills are great. However, his promo skills and just there's a little language barrier there. I think they need to work on that. And plus, I really think the whole rest of the year, honestly, is going to come down to a turnover between Neville and Enzo. Because I think they're gradually actually turning Neville into a face again.
Okay, I agree with you. Gran Metalik, I don't think that he is going to be in the hunt either for the Cruiserweight title. I mean, he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, and he was the opponent, I believe, to TJP there in the finals. And he lost, so... Oh, and he's not really been that close to the Cruiserweight title ever since. He's not a English-speaking star, per se, and that does, I guess, tend to hurt him being a contender for the Cruiserweight title, man. He could be a great in-ring tactician, but as a Cruiserweight contender, I don't think I'll see that. But that's all the time we have for the show. Thank you for being on my show, Tim. I appreciate you being on. Hopefully we can get you back on in the future.
I really look forward to it.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Always good to have new guests that provide a fresh and interesting take on the pro wrestling business and stuff like that. And you really help out the show with variety and not having necessarily the same guests on all the time. So I do appreciate you. But to let you guys know to keep up with the show. You can follow me on Facebook. You can find me at Robert Lee Red Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at Robert Red Jr., where you can vote in the poll as to who won the debate earlier in the show. And you can follow me for any other news and information. Instagram, it's Robert Lee Red Jr. You're going to see a pic of me and Tim, hopefully, sometime tonight or tomorrow. I am on Snapchat at MarkWonders85. So if you want to Snapchat, you got that. Feel free to add me on there. And YouTube, it's youtube.com/user/the Robert Red. That's my channel. I'm going to try to do some live video on there since I now have the capability to do it on my mobile device. So you might see some more YouTube content live and stuff like that on there. So you can definitely check that out. The podcast, you can find us on Google Play or iTunes. If you search The Power of Pro Wrestling, on your iOS or Android device, depending on which one you have. And just download, hit subscribe, and all the new episodes will be downloaded to your device directly, so you'll never miss an episode. And if you're on iTunes, give us a review. We greatly appreciate it. It will tell us what we need to improve on the show, whether you like the show and stuff like that. And if you leave us a review, we'll definitely give you a shout-out on social media or something like that, so definitely leave a review. Okay, Tim, where can people find you on social media?
Well, actually, all I pretty much have is my Facebook. They can look me up, Tim Branscombe, on Facebook. Just search Tim Branscombe, Jonesboro, Arkansas, and request me as a friend, especially if you follow this podcast. And I definitely want you as a friend and follow me, because if there's anything I like to talk about more than wrestling, I can't think of it right now.
Okay, awesome. So, as you heard, guys, follow him on Facebook, friend him. And also, you can find this podcast, I forgot to mention, we're on Shout Engine. It's shoutengine.com/The Power of Pro Wrestling, and you can directly listen to the podcast on there as well. But do want to thank you guys for listening to us. Once again, thank you, Tim, for being on the show.
Dude, but I have a quick question real quick.
Okay, go for it.
You said you were going to take a picture, right?
Yes, definitely.
Well, now, does that mean you're going to force the audience to have to see my face?
Well, they have to look at my ugly face all the time, so of course.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering, because I mean, that could be torture, classified as torture if they see me.
Well, I mean, they look at me, so I torture them all the time, so you'll be okay.
Okay.
But obviously, guys, thank you for checking out this podcast, and we will catch you next time on the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast.